This episode of Tu Tia Bruja is sponsored by Floodwitch, dedicated to providing information that helps you build an ethical witchcraft practice by raising marginalized voices while reclaiming weird. This is Floodwitch. Check it out at floodwitch.com.
I can see you clearly. Tu Tia Bruja.
Hola, mis brujitos. You're listening to another episode of Tu Tia Bruja. I'm Bex Carlos, your host. So everyone, this is the season finale. I'm really excited about this one. So my friend who calls herself the Astrodom, she came on the show and she and I had a little conversation about weed magic and the different things that we practice, being inspired by other members of the BIPOC witch community while they're Mercado, and just honestly, she told me why the stars say I ain't shit. So let's get into the episode and you can hear more about that.
I took THC crystals that have like 80, 89%, sometimes 90% THC content and like make weed butter out of those. Like what would happen? And then we make like an edible. Well, I'll tell you what happens. I black out and like hallucinate. And like, I'm pretty sure like I was seeing like geometrical shapes. It was crazy.
So I feel you. I made gummies and I really tried to use magic in every step of them. What are the properties of pineapple? What are the properties of blueberries? And then figured out a way to like make them.
That's so fucking cool. Like, I mean, it's like, I feel like in so many aspects, I'm still very much a baby witch in regards to like the detail and like context in which I can go into further fine tuning the intentions and the things that I set. And it's like when I hear like you and other members of the group talk about like how detailed like your spell working is, I was like, oh my God, I'm literally just on the tip of the iceberg here. And like, it's just so fucking cool. I love geeking out and listening to all the like cool shit you guys do.
It's like a moment, I will tell you, because I had this moment a couple years back ago where it just like clicked in my brain and I'm like, holy shit, I just gotta figure out a way to do it in everything.
I feel like the like Einstein moment I had with that, and I'm sorry, I feel like this is like segueing into your weed magic question you had. The one thing that like I've done where like I'm pretty sure other people thought about this, like I feel like collective thought happens like that where we all like manifest the same idea and we think we came up with it. But like what I like to do sometimes with rolling papers, like on the new moon, I'll like set my intentions for the month on those papers, like roll a blunt or something and smoke it. So you know, with like the act of like fire and meditating on that shit, you're like manifesting that shit pretty quickly. That's like probably like the most like what I think, because like I thought of it myself, like ingenious like weed magic that I do. I mean, there's like so many cooler things every day, like within just like the BIPOC witch community. Like people are so innovative with their craft work and practicing, and it's just like I'm blown away every day when I read people's like posts and insights and just how they're fucking like doing their work and learning their fucking craft. I don't know, it's just so cool. At least like, I mean, shitty that we're living in a pandemic, but I definitely would not want to be alive during the Spanish flu. At least we have the internet.
That's a really good perspective to have. Shit.
Because, I mean, it's like, listen, like, I think especially, like, coming from a BIPOC community, we have kind of now, it's like, yo, we've known about this fire going on in the room for, like, a very, very long time now. Like, we've all been fucking stressed, but I feel like the collective consciousness of everybody, like, going like, oh my God, there's, like, a 10-alarm fire going off in our world right now. Just that stress every day, like, has caused me to, like, draw inward and just kind of, like, it's like I can't take the outside stress anymore. And it's just, like, I've been lucky enough to, like, I've been able to see this type of perspective where it's just kind of, like, I was like, you know, if we were in the 1900s, like, I wouldn't be able to reach out to people who are like-minded like me and be able to vent and be vulnerable and even just like be able to escape into like the hobbies and my passions that I do on my own personal time. Like, I mean, it's just like how easy would it have been in the 1900s to just fucking reach out to people who have shared interests like us. Number one, we'd probably be persecuted. Number two, it just wouldn't be easy. Like, what the fuck am I gonna do? Like, get on the fucking goddess line? Like, fucking, like, send out some fucking prayer or intention and, like, all of a sudden I'm gonna get some metaphysical I am in the 1900s? It's not gonna happen. So, I don't know. I feel like we're super lucky in the sense, like, in that perspective. It's just, like, I'd rather have it happen now than me be alive in the 1900s and not have internet. But maybe that's just me being internet addicted. I don't know. That might be a bad thing to say.
I agree, though, because because the only thing that's been keeping me sane, honestly, during this pandemic is just figuring out ways to magic. And I've been getting so experimental with it and doing things that when I wanted to make those gummies, the inspiration came from the fact that they're pineapple molds to start.
Ooh.
So I was like, oh shit, like what kind of flavors? And typically I do orange because orange juice is so easy to find. That's going to cover the taste of any product you put in there. And that's important to me that they taste good. I worked in a pastry shop for a long time. So I'm like, I want shit to taste good.
Yeah, that's what I did. Like when I was in my early 20s going to nursing school, that's what I did for like a job. I worked at a bakery and they like sent me to like patisserie school and like I did all pastry chef shit. And it was awesome because I would come into work ripped fucking blazed and they'd be like, sup, we need you to like decorate 30 cakes today. I was like, tight. I'm so high. These are going to be sick. And I would make the coolest fucking cakes. Man, that was fucking sick. I miss being a fucking patisserie chef sometimes. Like just the foods I would make. Man, I got to start putting this fucking magic into my baking. I can only imagine how good my food would be.
And you know what's funny is because it seems like you're already a kitchen witch, you already have the ability to make things pretty dope. So if you just figured out ways to incorporate specific things, if you were making a buttercream and you were like, listen, we're going to make a fucking lavender lemon because like lavender's really good for cleansing, lemon's really good for starting anew, and also for cleansing or just removing anything.
I'm already drooling. That sounds so good.
You could just do something like that and it would have intention in every bit. And yeah, for a while there, I worked at a bakery that had been on Cupcake Wars. So it was kind of wild all the time in there.
How cool.
It was a cool shop. And like the best thing about working there is that they opened on 420. I always just love working in spaces where you have so many other stoners because it's just a way chill environment. Because I would be late sometimes and the person I was opening with would be like, sup? And they'd be like, have a mouth full of cookies, you know? And they were just like,
that's tight.
Just like clock the fuck in, you bitch. Like,
yeah, my favorite thing working at the bakery was like when it was time to make things and they need me to go to the grocery store to kind of cash out things for ingredients to make. I'd like always take a little extra ingredients. I'm like, yeah, I need these like peach rings for cake decoration. Yeah, the cake decoration, the cake's already in my stomach and it's just going to sit on that. That was like my favorite thing about bakery.
one thing I really want to go into because the stars, I just saw the Walter Mercado documentary. Have you seen it?
I'm going to be honest with you. I haven't, only not because I'm not interested in it, just because my life has been so chaotic as of late. I haven't had the single minute to sit down and like dedicate my time to it because I have such ADHD. Even when I have something I want to watch, it really is just on in the background. Like I have a million things going on a minute. Like I have to like be doing everything at once. So like that's something like Walter Mercado is such a catalyst for like the most intense, loving, and like warm, nostalgic feelings that I have of my family and my Mexican culture that I want to be able to invest my whole time and attention to it. I want to be able to consume that documentary in its entirety. I don't want to watch it in the background. I don't want to like be on Facebook or Instagram, like just kind of scrolling while it's just playing in the background. And I tend to do that just because I have such a short attention span. So I'm like waiting for the right moment, which I'm pretty sure is going to be this weekend. Like a nice little dinner planned on Saturday. I'm just going to sit and watch it and relax. And I also bought a 2-gram infused blunt. And it's a glass tip. It's from this company called Packwoods. So it's 2 grams of like sativa hybrid weed. The blunt is like soaked in hash oil and then it's rolled in kief. So I'm going to smoke that and then just like really just commit to it.
Do it. It's going to be a really great time.
Tell me what you liked about it. Like, I'm not the type of person who's like, spoilers, because it's like, it's a documentary. Like, what am I going to be spoiled on? Like, I grew up watching him giving readings and astrological, like, horoscopes on, like, Univision, like, all throughout my life. Like, I remember my grandparents would be sitting down watching Premiere Impactico, and then, Walter Mercado comes on. You better not fucking speak, or you're going to get the chancla.
Real facts. I feel you because I just remember it being on all the time in the background. I didn't realize that his last show had aired in 2006.
Really? I mean, like touching back on Netflix documentaries, it's kind of been in the talks for the last few years. So like, his story's been kind of been rehashed like every like other year once in a while. And I remember reading an article on that because I was like, I thought he was like on the air until like 2010. So like, that's actually really surprising to hear.
I was really surprised by that too. So it turns out that earlier in his career, he had partnered with this guy named Bill Bacola, I want to say, and I might be mispronouncing that, but I'm pretty sure that's it. Well, anyway, fuck you, Bill. Bill really fucked him over and like had him sign this contract and didn't have the legal counsel consult him on what it meant. And basically this contract was all about taking his likeness and owning it, everything about him, including his name. And so because of that, that lawsuit started in 2006. It took 6 years to complete. And so he wasn't allowed to use his own name.
This guy, listen, and this makes me so mad that, because it's like this happens in the entertainment industry all the time. You see these people essentially preying on and poaching these like up and coming entertainers from, you know, Latin countries, other countries outside of the US. And it's just like, it just makes me so mad that this man who, it's like, you can't own a likeness of somebody, because even if you own his likeness, I don't care. It's like, you're not going to own the man. So you're telling me that you're going to try to own this personality, the cadence of his speech, his aesthetic. It's not going to be the same on somebody else. Like, it's just like, you're going to go that far to like stifle a man's like ability to fucking provide not only entertainment and comfort, but a gift to the world like that. What was the reason for a 6-year fucking legal battle to like try to own the likeness of somebody? Like, that's not going to matter if you're not going to have Walter Mercado. You can't own the aesthetic if you don't have the man. That makes me so sad. I feel like the end of his life was just so heartbreaking. And I feel like that happens to like a lot of the like older entertainers who like just got into the entertainment industry at a really early time. He was getting involved in the entertainment industry at such a like overtly racist time. They weren't trying to like elevate his craft and elevate his talent. They were looking to exploit him. And it's just so sad. It's like, in a way, it's like almost like we as like the Latin community like enabled it, because we just so rapidly consumed it. And we made it such a viable commodity where it's just these capitalistic pigs are like, yes, this is like an exploitable demographic. This is an exploitable aesthetic. We're going to exploit this man. Like, it just makes me so sad. By the way, if anyone hears this and follows my roast readings profile on Instagram, I'm locked out currently. I am a dumb bitch and clicked on a phishing link, and I've been locked out of my account for a week and been trying to get back in. And we all know how Instagram's admin team is so helpful. So yeah, stay tuned.
Speaking of roast readings, since we were all inspired by Walter Mercado, like, we could talk about him forever, but I want to talk about how your reading started.
Oh my God. So I'm like your typical woman in this day and age. I'm really, really interested in astrology, just kind of having that witchy background since I was a young kid, coming from a Mexican family with an indigenous like roots and culture. I mean, my grandparents practiced some form of occultism all throughout their lives. I feel like within Mexican cultures, especially indigenous cultures, like the superstitious things that we do are rooted in occulticism, I feel. And even though they don't feel it's occulticism, it is. I've always been interested in astrology. And, you know, growing up with Walter Mercado on the TV, I've always felt this drawn to like astrology and how it kind of explains people. I've always been kind of like a little lovesick puppy. So like Zodiac, it was like my form of MASH as a kid. I was like, yo, I'm going to find out everything about my crush. I'm just going to like look at the Zodiac and see if we're meant to be. Half the time I'd be wrong, because most of the time I only realized that like I thought like sun signs were it. Once I hit my 20s and realized there was like a whole thing called natal charts. There were moons and risings and Chirons and midhavens. I was like, oh my God, like this makes so much more sense. Cause like I never really like, as a Virgo sun, like I'm very critical and like live and die by aesthetic, and I am super like perfectionist in the sense that like the things I want to choose to focus on, I will not stop until I feel it's perfect. I got that, but like a lot of the other like Virgo characteristics, I'm like, this isn't me. They're usually considered like analytical, logical and shit. And I mean, like, I'm really good at giving advice to other people, but like I'm really just an analytical crybaby. And like once I found out my natal chart that I was also a Scorpio moon and rising, I was like, oh, this like makes so much more sense. Like, this is why I'm always in my feels. And like, I really, when Queen of the Damned came out in the 8th grade, I was like, that's my aesthetic. It made sense. I was like, oh, well, I'm a Scorpio rising and moon. That like, I makes sense that I listened to nu metal and like goth as a preteen. The whole thing with roast readings. Recently, my best friend's visiting me. He's relocating from New York to come live with me. And we were very, very high and just Like me and my best friend, he's also a Virgo sun. He was the first reading I did, Connor. Our whole relationship is just based off just kind of joking with each other and kind of poking fun at each other. And I started like reading his like chart, and he was I want to say it was a Virgo sun. He's an Aries rising and a Scorpio moon. And I saw that. I was like, Virgo sun, Scorpio moon. So same sun and moon sign as me. So I understand why me and him are like kindred spirits. But that Aries rising, I was like, this is why you're a dick. This is why you're shit posting 24/7 and always getting into internet fights with people in the grindcore community. And you think it's really funny. Like it ain't no thing to you. Where like other signs like get into confrontation, like they have a pathological like draw to it, but then they also have panic attacks while they're simultaneously in that confrontation. Nah, he's like smiling the whole time. I'm like roasting him and he's like, yo, all this stuff you're saying about me is really funny. Like you should make a video of this really quick and just post it. So I did. And I edited it really quickly and I posted it on my personal Instagram page and my Facebook. A friend of mine, he has like a meme page and his Instagram has like 10K followers. He's like, yo, this is funny. You need to do more of these. And when I posted his video on my Facebook, I kept getting the same comments from a lot of my friends. They're like, you are onto something here. Like you're really succinct. The criticisms are spot on and they're not too mean. Like it's just kind of like that, sassy Tia who's going to tell it to you straight, but still loves you. I'm not going to be overly mean, but I'm going to tell you like why you ain't shit. I had an outpouring of like requests to make a roast video after I posted Connor's and more after I posted the second one from my friend Emma. And then my friend Mike, who has his own like little meme page on Instagram and Facebook, he sent me his chart and I did his. And once he shared my video of his, that's when I really started to get like a lot of follows. I have like a few people who have sent me tips. So basically right now what I've done, the site, once I get access back to it again, I actually check my email to see if admin's like gotten back to me. I don't have like any set. If you want to shoot me $1, you want to shoot me $20, I don't care. But like, obviously the more money you shoot me in tips, like the more detailed your roast is going to be. If someone like shoots me like $3, I'll make you a video, but I'm probably just going to stick to like your sun, moon, and rising. Someone shoots me like $20, like, yeah, I'm going to talk about your sun, moon, and rising, but I'm going to a little bit deeper, like what your houses are in, if there's any oppositions, all that stuff. So it's kind of like a sliding scale. And then people, if they don't have the funds to donate, because we're in a fucking pandemic and we're like dying under the crushing boot of capitalism. I get it. Everyone's just going to be patient because your punishment will come in due time. So I kind of like work at it, when I have free time, have my own life. I have a job, I have things that I have to do when I'm off work or I'm not taking care of my dogs or not filling my emotional cup with seeing the people that keep my emotional cup full in my life. I do a quick, 1 to 2 videos. I have a few waiting to get posted once I have access back to my account. And yeah, that's basically what I do.
Did you have the chance to look into mine?
I did. I have all your shit like pulled up.
Oh God. Okay. So this is funny because this is going to air on my 30th birthday.
A little gateway into who you are as a person. When I actually when I pulled your chart, I had a nice little chuckle to myself because it actually made a lot of sense, at least to me. You and I are actually coming on our 1-year anniversary of meeting. You and I met in the spin-off MFM groups about a year ago. And I remember this because I was here in California at this time of the year because my grandpa was dying. It's I've had this nice little window into who you are as a person, kind of in the background, because it's you and I talk and we're cordial and, we check in with each other every couple of days, but it's not like we're best friends. So I don't have this intimate view of you, but I'm also in the background where I get to see you kind of it's you don't have that oh, this person's watching me as a person. So it's everyone has that self-preservation where you kind of have that facade up where it's it's your sun sign. You have the curated self you want people to see until you really, really get to know that person intimately. And then they see your rising and moons. So it's just kind of but when you have that background and I kind of just can see you interact with other people, it's that cheat code. It's aha, I don't have to know you all that intimately because I can see how you act with other people that on an intimate level and get a kind of window of see how you really are. So when I read all this stuff, I really did agree with it because it's just I see how you interact with the people that you're a little bit closer with in our groups. And I'm just this is spot on. All of this is goddamn spot on. I'm assuming you've read your natal chart before, right?
Yeah, I have.
Okay, cool. So we'll see if you like agree with this as all. So your sun is in a Leo, your rising is a Sagittarius, and your moon was a Gemini. Your sun is in a Leo, which is basically that I always kind of put it this way. Everyone's sun sign is the facade, the aesthetic, and personality that you curate so that people, when they get that first impression, it's like your cover letter. It's what you want people to just instantly think of you when they see you and like speak with you for 5 minutes. So typically Leo suns, they're super fucking, I call them the las dramaticas of the zodiac signs. They're super, super dramatic, but on top of the drama, like it's drama in every aspect. It's drama in their faces. It's drama in how they wear their hair, their makeup, their clothes. Like everything is show-stopping with Leo's suns. When they walk into a room, it's like, okay, they're in the room. Like you can't not notice them and you cannot pay attention to anything but them with those Leo suns. Now, with your sun in the 9th house, though, this is where you get fucking annoying. I mean, and also, like, a lot of people just kind of, like, find Leo suns annoying because you guys are the dramatic bitches, but you're also the glamorous bitches. So, like, if no one is paying attention to you, you're going to let it know. You are going to become Miss Ross so fucking quickly. It's not going to be fun for anybody. So, the thing with, like, people who have their suns in the 9th house, you have such a strong sense of curiosity, which I think is what makes you a really, really strong practitioner. But the problem is you want all your questions answered like as soon as possible. You are the most impatient bitch ever. It's just like you have a question, but you want it answered now. Those are people in the 9th house. And that's typically if you don't have your sun sign developed really well. Typically, people who are able to realize that that's not a self-serving trait are able to realize, oh, I have this question and I can't wait for it to be answered. I'm going to go to Google. And I see that you know how to do that. So obviously you figured out that little con of your sun in the 9th house. But typically people with their sun in the 9th house tend to be a little bit more impatient, a little bit more impulsive. They typically are the type of people who've been like, well, why can't you teach me? Thankfully, that's not you. Other than that, the sun in the 9th house is a really strong sign to have that in. That's really the only con of the 9th house sun sign. But other than that, you're just a dramatic bitch with a Leo in the sun sign. Now, your Gemini moon, everyone wants to hate on a Gemini. And it's really, really hard for me too, because all my favorite people have Gemini moons. And as a Scorpio moon, Gemini moons just really click. But like, let's be honest here. You guys really are like ADHD people of the zodiac moon placements. Like you guys are just going a million miles a minute. So on top of that, with your fucking placement of your sun sign in the 9th house, like if that isn't curated to where it's like, bitch, you need to breathe and meditate if people aren't answering your questions quickly. Like, I don't understand like how I would never want to see you as somebody who hasn't gotten these like tics under control, because I could never sit in the same room with somebody who needs a question answered like immediately. And then when I go to answer their fucking question, they're on to something fucking else. Like that is the type of person with a Gemini moon and a sun in the 9th house. It's like the literal manifestation of ADHD. I'm literally getting a headache. You're a lot like Mike, but just different placements. We need to get you an Adderall prescription too, apparently. My goodness. How did you do in school, by the way? How was your learning style? Did you have a hard time like retaining information like when you were in like school?
No, actually, I did pretty well in school because I did what was expected of me, but I feel like I never did more than what was expected to me. So it was like my parents expected A's and B's. Math was shitty, so like I got bad grades. But for the most part, I was okay with doing the bare minimum and still getting by. So it allowed me to have a social life and do a bunch of shit.
I'm like already seeing it right now, like that type of placement. Like if somebody's not very well developed in those, I was like, oh my God, you are ADHD and you have like, what I think they call them like IEP. Like it's basically like they come up with like a contingency plan to like help you learn because the school system's broken and they consider people who like are not neurotypical like hopeless. Feel so bad for ADHD people like having to interact in the public school system, but that's for another podcast. But the last but not least, your Sagittarius rising. I've always had a soft spot for Sagittarius because I'm a Sailor Moon junkie and I've always like secretly like had a crush on Sailor Jupiter. I thought she was always super badass. But also I don't know about you, but I've noticed people always want to talk about how Geminis and Scorpios are like also like the most shit talk zodiac signs. But you know what? I see more often than not Sagittarius is getting a lot of hate. So many people want to shit on Sagittariuses. And I mean, I guess like if like you've been burned by one, I can kind of get it because Sagittarius are the type of people that are like really fucking fickle. I once literally dated a Sagittarius who dumped me because I wore 2 socks that were not matching. It wasn't even like, wow, you're wearing a black and a white sock. Like it was 2 white socks, but the like patterns were like different. It clearly they weren't the same socks, but he's like, that looks really fucking weird. And I'm sorry, I can't like get past this. And he took me home. Granted, that was like an OkCupid date. And that may just be because that's internet dating. But I always attributed it to he's a Sagittarius and he really embarrassed me. So that's why I hate Sagittariuses. But really, the reason I think most people don't like Sagittariuses, especially Sagittarius risings, they typically are the blunt, rude bitches. Like, those are the people, if I'm talking to a girl and, like, I bring up another girl and they're like, yeah, I don't like that bitch. She, like, always has something to say and, like, she just doesn't have a filter. They're usually a Sagittarius rising. And what people don't realize, it's just Sagittariuses are just super blunt. And they, like, are to the point of just blunt of indiscretion. And, like, people don't realize, like, you guys aren't being nefarious. Like, you guys just, the way you process things and you guys are like, if you do X, Y will happen. But also, I think it's like you guys also tend to like be gravitated to people who have a complete opposite worldview of you because you typically, like Sagittarius risings typically tend to be accepting of all types of people, like when they're really well developed. It's really weird. Like you guys are super fucking picky in when it comes to ticks, but like in regards to you guys are like generally just talk to anybody. But like that's what gets you guys into trouble. Like you guys don't tend to like pick your battles. I as a Virgo like can tend to like look at somebody and be like, yeah, I'm not going to mess with that people. Sagittariuses are so open and friendly and easygoing in their own right that they'll just start a conversation up with anybody. But like you're so forward and blunt, like you'll just fucking say anything. And like sometimes you are going to be talking to like a Pisces moon and you're going to put that bitch on suicide watch. But I feel like that's why people like really like don't like Sagittarius rising because they think they're rude. But it's just like you guys just kind of tell it like it is, kind of like the Scorpio moons. You know, I'm going to say it. I like Sagittarius risings. I'm sorry. I know this is supposed to be a roast, but there's really nothing shitty about your placement. I'm going to say it. You're one of the first like readings I've done that like, I'm like, I ain't got nothing bad to say about this.
Aw.
I'm sorry. You got like really strong placements. But like also, like I said, I'm sure there are times where maybe you may not, when people also talk about like strongly built signs and not really develop parts of your sign, it's not like a black and white thing where it's like, okay, I've learned everything and I've evolved. I'm going to be like the strongest placement I can be. It's like, no, it's fluid. Like everybody has good days and bad days. Sometimes you're your best rising sign. Some days you're your shittiest rising sign. You know, it's like, it's not all a monolith.
When you were talking about the underdeveloped qualities, like I definitely had a lot of those when I was younger and I feel like didn't do a lot of the inner work and checking in with myself. But now, you know, getting closer to 30, I'm like, shit, things are making sense. I got to heal my shit. I can't just be around carrying my heart on my sleeve. And I'm just like, even though they were all shit and the men that like left my life left, I also kind of applaud them because the ones that did keep up, I'm like, you guys really did have to jump through hoops to just be talking to me all the time.
It's really funny that you say that because your sun square ascendant is actually explains why that happens. So like the problem that you're going to have to resolve is that like if you pursue what you want in life, you're not really going to be able to get along with others. Like that's just the like nature of your sun square ascendant. Others tend to like when they meet you, they seem to resist your every effort so that they want to get ahead of you. So like you tend to just cut people off from relationships. Like that's typically what happens with your sun placement with that square ascendant. But what people don't realize, it's like, it's a test. Like you are putting people through a ring of fire. And a lot of people, unfortunately, if they're not strong enough, they don't really realize that's just the test. And if they can be honest with them, like people like you value honesty over everything else. And if like you feel that people like are not being their true self, you feel they have nefarious intent, you are so quick to cut people off. And it's not so much like this is something that you do. It's just like your placement, like the type of person you are such a strong force in nature that like you are just going to attract opposition for the rest of your life. I'm sorry. It's just kind of like, even if you made a lot of mistakes early in life, though, the thing is, it's the stereotypical, your placement is super strong, though, because you're the type of person where you're going to fuck up a lot in your life, but every time you fuck up, you learn and you never make that same mistake again. And those are the type of people that are my favorite type of people. Like, especially like in my professional job, I love the type of person who may fuck up a lot, but they never fuck up the same thing again. Because that's somebody who's constantly learning.
Yeah. And like, aren't we all here to learn?
Exactly. It's just like, listen, like, unless you're like a fucking doctor or a pilot, please, baby, fuck up as much as you need to. Like, you're not going to kill anybody. You know what, though? Like, also, I find it's really weird that people, like, I don't know if you ever do this, but like people will only like adhere to like their placements and only read their placements. I love to read other people's placements because, and maybe this is just because as a Virgo, I'm so big on curating aesthetics. I love to just read other people's placements and I'm like, you know what? That's a fucking sick personality trait to have. I'm going to try to work towards that. That seems like it'd be more self-serving to where I want to be in life.
Sometimes like natal charts can be super duper interesting because like you said, they can like give you insight on a person. And yeah, you can figure out things that they're really good at. That's what I love about natal charts. It's like the good and the bad. The duality of human nature is like there's good and bad in all of us. So it's really best to know yourself at your best and yourself at your worst. This was, I mean, it was true, but I was also just like, yeah, a lot of this resonates. I'm like an overstimulated child.
It's nice though, because it's like, in a way, it's validation. Sometimes I feel like the best way to get rid of a negative thought is to validate that thought so that you can just acknowledge that it's there, sit with that uncomfortableness and just fucking move on from it rather than just kind of fearing, do I do this? I feel like the anxiety of fearing if this is true about you rather than just acknowledging that it's true, kind of once you've composed yourself, getting that strength to do something about it is much more constructive.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing about witchcraft too, is that it's ways to like heal yourself. And I don't know, watching that documentary about Walter Mercado like really was positive because I had a shitty day of like being triggered in the last couple of days and realizing that, listen, kid, you can't like lash out because again, it's a growing process. I love it.
Exactly.
One quick thing, papers. Papers with designs on them have been really practical in my weed magic. Juicy J's makes some that have like cake on them. And I'm just like, I just want my life to be cake. So that might be something to check out.
Oh, I'm definitely going to have to do that. I'm trying to go over towards papers, especially with like the weed magic and like how I really like this idea of like on the new moon, like when I'm setting my intentions for the month of like writing just like some like basic intentions of things I'd really like to focus on the month and then just smoking that in the blunt and just like, you know, working towards that for the month. But like, yeah, the problem is a lot of the times, like I will destroy blunt wraps or like papers and like having that stickiness. Oh, that'd be so helpful. Thanks for the recommendation. I appreciate that.
Plus, like, again, the aesthetic is the best. And they have like a million different flavor options. I think I have the orange banana cake and I'm about to get the little ice cream cones because they're so cute.
It's LA. We're recreational legal. Like, I'm sure I can find them somewhere here.
All right, Cassandra, where can everyone find you on the interwebs?
All right. So if y'all want me to tell y'all in a quick, like 1 to 2 minute video of why you ain't shit based off your astrological placements, you can follow me on Instagram. It's Roast Readings, ROAST READINGS. Like I said in the beginning of the podcast, I am currently locked out because when I made that Instagram, I was violently high and don't remember the password. So, you know, once I figure out how to reset that, I will be back on. I'm hoping I can do that tonight. But yeah, please follow me, submit your information so I can read your natal charts, and I will make a quick video on why you ain't shit.
All right, that was the show. Be sure and check out the show notes to find out how you can support Cassandra. I just want to take this time to say thank you again for listening. This has been an amazing first season. It's a wrap. One thing I do want to talk about before I leave, it was my doble quince. I had a really wonderful day, but you know, if you are a member of this witchy community, I just want to remind you, you can't own people, you can't own magical people, and you can't own deities. I think your intentions should always be on how to do good, create good in the universe, and not try to just profit. We got to heal ourselves, we got to heal each other, and money helps in that, but money shouldn't be our only purpose. All right, well, thank you for listening. look out for season 2. It's coming in October. I love you all. Be sure and message me ideas that you might have for season 2. I'm looking forward to it. There's going to be some cool stuff. We'll talk soon. I love you. Bye.
I can see you clear.